Okay, hopefully that'll do it. Okay, Mr. TK, good afternoon.
Oh, how are you, Darryl?
Almost got to say good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Great long weekend. Last weekend of the summer. It feels like the most normal part of the summer. I don't know if you agree. Not a far cry from what it did, last year around this time, but it feels like summer's coming to an end. School's about to start. I feel like I know where I am in the year.
Yeah, we don't really know what's happening with the online schooling, so it's a little confusing at the moment. They still
hmm
haven't given us dates or anything really.
All I
But
know is,
I know they're starting soon, so I'm very excited to be able to go to bed at a reasonable time again because I'm
mm,
dying here. I mean, my kids are so old and not old enough to trust them to go to bed when they're supposed to, so we end up having to wait at least till my son wants to go to bed, or
mhm,
we force him to go to bed. So it's
mm,
like every day, 12, 1 o'clock is really starting to wear on dear old dad here.
the old joints there. I'm hearing things like if they have even 2 cases of COVID in the schools, that they're going to shut the schools down.
I heard that they were going to try and localize closures before they
I mean,
shut the whole system down. But who the hell,
yeah,
who knows? I don't think they know. I,
no,
I definitely don't know. I'm going to guess
for
that you
sure.
don't know. I don't
I
know
know
who
less than you.
knows. Yeah. I don't know who the hell knows, but
Yeah,
somebody knows what's going to happen at some point.
we keep going. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's kind of similar to the real estate market right now. Like everything's just going whichever way it wants to, and we'll see what happens.
Well, the only thing we know for sure is that if certain things happen, there's going to be a reaction in the market. But if those things don't happen, then we're all just going to be sitting on pins and needles waiting to see what happens. So
It's going to be a lot of pins and needles, I'll tell you, especially if you're trying to sell land.
there you
But
go.
it looks like if you're trying to sell your house, at least last month, there didn't seem to be too many
Headline
issues.
news. Yep, headline news. Record months again here in August.
And
What does it
and
all mean, Darryl?
you heard it here from TK's mouth that August would be rip roaring compared to last year and keep up pace with July. I don't know if that ended up being the case, but it felt like it.
Well, let's talk about that first. So I mean, I'm not going to toot my own horn here and say, I called it, because definitely there's some different factors. Prices certainly rose by a fraction of a percent month over month from August to July. But sales were down. I mean, sales were down 2.7% total number of sales in August compared to July.
Sales
So we didn't have that
volume,
same,
like amount
exactly,
of
number of
sales.
sales.
What about
Yeah.
the actual
So
dollars transacted? Where did that land?
$7,000 higher.
So less sales but more dollar value traded.
Yes.
Is
Prices rose insignificantly in the month of August compared to July.
Do we find that interesting at all?
You know what? I mean, again, we're not seeing a rush of supply, so there's still competition. There's still bidding wars. People always seem to be confident in the real estate market going up. So if they saw that the house that that sold in July went for X, and they paid a few $1,000s more 30 days later, Torontonians seem to be pretty comfortable with that,
So I
right?
get, but I guess less sales, more sales volume equals higher price items are selling.
Definitely. So we'll unwrap exactly where all those sales prices are coming from. I mean, a bottom line is there's less total transactions, which means that there was less buyers willing to buy this month, and listings and everything like that are starting to go on the rise as well, right? So even though we saw the price increase, obviously there is some factors that we're looking into, which is the types of homes that are selling. But also just, there's always just going to be a pressure on certain prices, certain areas, a lot of micro markets. Some areas just have been, really, really low in inventory, and bidding wars were still popular. So people were going over and above what some of the July numbers were. I mean, in some neighborhoods, you could be $50,000, right? But on average, it ended up working out to being 7,000. Also, what's kind of keeping that number down is condo prices and everything too. All these different markets that we have in the GTA. So we'll look at all that too.
So
So let's talk about the headline news, right? So the headline news: CP24, 680, Global, Toronto Star, all the big
Hold on.
media outlets basically come out.
Toronto housing market sets yet another all-time record as prices surge by 20%.
Compared to August 2019,
exactly, which
right?
as we're even just talking here, I'm looking at a statistic that shows, oh, we got a visitor.
Yep. Go ahead.
I showed a statistic, or I'm looking at a statistic that shows average price August 19 was 792, and the average price in August is of 2020 is 951. But
Yeah.
like, to compare average price year over year for the same month doesn't make sense, because the average price goes up month after month compared to the previous
But
actual
why
sales.
compare year over year then?
Well, in an event like this, I guess it sounds really great, but
Well, they do it all the time, but it's
I
about
don't know.
it's about headlines. It's about sensationalizing the market. The more people buy when the market's going up. Real estate's a good investment when the market's going up. When the market's going down, everyone says, "Don't get into real estate because prices are going down. Bad investment."
Isn't that when
So
the
now
smart people buy?
the Toronto, sure, and most people are not smart people. That's why
Right.
they say that.
I forgot about that.
So, Toronto Real Estate Board is hired by and paid for by whom?
The realtors.
Realtors. So who benefits from more sales in the Greater Toronto Area?
The realtors.
The realtors. It's a conspiracy, Darryl. Oh my gosh. We're paying somebody to release figures on our behalf in order to generate more sales overall.
Yes.
Pretty smart, eh? They've been doing it for 100 years. They just celebrated 100 years last month.
Well, I got a feeling there won't be too many more celebrations, but for now, they can keep celebrating. But
Right?
I mean, listen, 20%. What was it over last month? The average price. How much did it go up
So
from last
prices
month?
went up less than 1%. It went up $7,000. So the 952. So you're talking about whatever, just over 0.5%.
So that should be an important stat. I mean, it not going down in this environment, I would say, is pretty substantial.
But sales are trending down. Sales
are,
numbers are trending down,
for sure.
and listings are trending up.
Yeah, it's not a good recipe for.
Right?
Well, I mean, how balanced are we? Like, what is our sales to listings ratio?
We're in a seller's market still, so there's still not anything to be concerned about. But at the end of the day, you're still looking at an area of concern when more people start putting their houses on the market and more people or less people are able to be purchasing. And so we're talking about prices. So let's stick with that. The best figure that I always look at, I always really like to focus on this year, is because what price range of homes are starting to sell. So compared to last year, we had August 2019, 159 homes over $2 million were sold. In 2020, there was 413. So it's a 266% increase in sales of homes, and the largest sale price all of.
So what's that price point again? Over what?
Over 2 million.
Over 2 million. We had a jump of 100% more sales.
266 more percent.
266%.
Okay? Almost three times the sales of homes over $2 million.
Wow. Well, so and that ties back to what we were talking about before, is that the amount of dollars transacted is similar, but it's taking less sales because people are buying the more expensive product. I mean, that's the only way that can happen.
That's heavily influencing what the average price is. So that's why we're seeing 20%. Did the average home in Toronto go up 20%? It's a hard no.
Right.
It's a hard no. I mean, I can guarantee it on almost every single area. There's certain areas that are doing phenomenal. And I'm not going to say that this is like a consistent metric you should, try to use or to avoid, but it's not necessarily true for the average house, right? So people have to understand where these numbers are coming from, who's releasing them. There's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics.
Yes. So what are we looking at right now? Lies or damn lies?
right?
I don't
So
know about
this is
that, but okay.
this is what it is, right? So when we're looking at pricing, we're trying to figure out exactly where the numbers are coming from, exactly what prices, and then what are we comparing to? We're comparing to last year. We're comparing to August, like one of the slowest months in Toronto, when everyone's at the cottage and relaxing and enjoying themselves and doing all the summer fun things. Everything's closed right now. You can't get anywhere. So
So
yeah, of course, compared to August last year, we're going to see an increase in prices.
so and
That's why they do it.
where are we
Go ahead.
at, like year to date versus last year?
For sales numbers, we're still down 5%.
Down 5% with a
Yeah.
pandemic officially from
An
like middle of
interruption in the
March.
market. Yeah. So that's pretty good for a pandemic, considering things were shut down for the time. But the way I look at it is,
We still
if
have
there's a
time to
certain,
make that 5% up too.
we still have time to make that time up, and that's great on the demand. So one of the questions I think I want to ask myself and you today to talk about is, how has COVID impacted demand? How has COVID impacted supply?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and where do we see it go? Where do we see it going?
Yes. Well, and then one other thing I want to point out, and I don't know how this is going to tie in, but like property on the market year over year difference month to month, does that like 33% less days on the market to sell a property from August to August? Is
Yeah.
that because people are around now and they're not normally around?
Simple answer, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, where would you like to focus on the demand? Let's talk about demand first, because supply is probably a little bit trickier. Demand seems pretty obvious. I mean, we keep talking about it. There's all the
Yep.
same factors, right?
Yep. So
Immigration down, unemployment up, um,
I think we were
mortgage
heading
rates are
into a.
low,
I think exactly. So I think we were heading into a boom year without COVID, and I think
deferral
that
cliff.
sales would be drastically outpacing last year's total number of sales. So I believe that the demand has decreased. Okay, for all those reasons that we've talked about.
Pre-COVID demand has decreased, but okay. So, but where do
we,
we
we were on
land?
track for a we were on track for a crazy year. I mean, at the beginning of this year, we came out the gates hot,
Right.
and we're doing well. But overall, there's still 5% less sales. Overall, we know that there's people who aren't coming to the country. Overall, we know that there's people who are not able to purchase because of qualifying reasons, because of their job losses and different types of situations like that too, right? I think that there's people who have decided to move during COVID because of the situation, the pandemic. They're leaving condos, they're getting bigger spaces. For sure, there's people who've decided to move because of COVID. But I think overall, I think we're going to still see an increase in sales this year, but we would have saw a much greater increase in sales overall had COVID not happened in 2020.
Yeah, and I think we'll see more of it spreading out throughout the GTA, moving away from downtown and just kind of spreading itself through GTA and I guess surroundings. Sales volume will probably stay relatively similar to last year, or I mean, listen, any year over the last few years would still be a really good year for real estate.
Yeah, you
If
have to
we
look at where 2019 was.
I don't even
So
know why we're always comparing it to previous years. It's like, this is a damn good year for real estate. I don't care where you are on the planet. People are making money. People are getting hurt. Like it's pretty normal.
So here are the numbers, okay? So 87,000 sales in 2019, okay?
87,000 for year to
The
date,
total sales for 2019,
the
right?
whole year.
So
Okay, yeah.
the boom years were 2016, 2015. We had 101,000. We had 113,000.
Yeah, so but
Those were good years.
those are anomalies. Like anytime I'm looking at anything, I try and take away the worst year and the best year and eliminate
Okay.
them completely.
Well, if I look at what last year was 87 compared to 2018 at 78, huge increase. But compared to 2017, 2014, 2015, 2016, the previous 4 years, actually last year was a low year. It's probably on average a typical year. 2019 was, where you're just under 90,000, but by no stretch of the imagination was it a boom year. We were heading for a boom year based on the sales that we had in 2020. So 2020 started off with 4,500 sales compared to 4,000 sales January. Okay. So we had a small increase in January.
Yeah.
February 2019, we had just under 5,000 sales. February 2020, pre-COVID, 7,200 sales.
Yeah. We saw the charts. Like it was going
We
off
came
the
out
charts.
the gate hot way before COVID. So there was a trajectory that was going to last throughout 2020 that would have put us up maybe 100,000 sales, who knows, but it's going to be a lot higher than it would have been last year. So all these comparisons to 2019, great, fantastic, amazing.
But who gives a
But
crap?
who cares? What did your neighbor sell for last week? Okay, look at your home and decide how you compare to them and what the market's going to bear.
So hold on a sec. So right now, if we kept the current pace compared to last year, you're saying that we would end up with a year of 82,650 units sold. That's crazyville.
Roughly.
Roughly.
Yep.
And that's if we don't catch up. That's if we don't catch up.
That would be the lowest year since 2008.
Yeah, and it's still great years for real estate. But we're heading into this like big unknown. I don't know.
Behemoth.
I don't know. Like we don't even know how bad the deferral cliffs is gonna be.
Sure. I'll give you the update on that. Is they've got 500,000 mortgage deferrals that will resume in October.
Yeah.
500,000.
How many?
A lot of people.
I think it's even more the next month. And
No,
then does it taper off each month?
October's the
peak.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if those people aren't paying their bills, if those people decide that they're not able to afford any more payments whatsoever, you're still talking about a few months before a power sale could be issued. Like there's still a process. So we wouldn't really see anything happen until the beginning of 2021 at the earliest. We might see an increase in listings. We might see, less pressure on the demand side. So prices aren't going to be rising as quickly, but people are still going to be selling for prices based off of, and people are still going to be willing to pay for homes based on the prices that they are obtaining right now.
Yeah.
Right? Because we haven't taken away people's ability to buy. Interest rates are still going to be low. They're still going to have the financing in place.
Yeah.
And when they find a house they love and the neighbor got X, they're going to pay the same within reason. Like it's not going to be X minus 10 or anything like that.
Are we talking like 1 out of 10 houses here, like that go up for sale? Like does 1 out of every 10 houses in an area reset the pricing in an area?
What does that mean?
Okay, so if I'm looking at wherever, North York, okay? Whatever pocket in North York, and I'm looking in that pocket and I see the comparable sales for the last 3 months. There's 10 of them, one of which, is somebody had to sell, couldn't hold on for their price, needed the money, and they're an anomaly, right? They're 50, 60, 70,000 lower than the market. There's still 9 others that are in line with the trend, right? So
Yep.
How many out of 10 listings, how many of those are going to be people that are having mortgage deferral issues, employment issues? I mean, I know you don't know the answer, but even if we're saying 2 out of 10, which is a crazy amount of people, does the market in Toronto not understand that that's what happened there? And do they react to it? If you're a realtor and you pull up 2 anomalies that have to be, weird circumstances because the other 8 are in line and probably increasing with the market, what do you tell your clients about those 2? And where do we set the price for our house now?
Yeah. So, it's a complicated answer. Each scenario is really different. Generally speaking, I would say no, one sale is not going to affect the area where the other 9 sales are all getting a certain amount of money, because again, everyone's going to set the price again, and it's going to be based on what's available. And when a new buyer comes into the market, they're going to have to make a decision on what's available. And if not, then somebody else is going to buy it. So just because you missed out on that opportunity where there was a fire sale and the guy sold it for cheap doesn't mean that somebody else is forced to do that again, for sure. That's a very general answer. But there's also a lot of other factors that can come in, right? So, other people may have different representation where, they may end up taking a smaller amount of money, or they might be listing it at the wrong price, or they may not be reaching the right buyer. So they end up effectively getting not as much because of that one sale. And then that can start a trend too, right? So there's just a lot of factors, but I totally agree with you 100%. You can't just base all of your analysis off of one sale to determine market value.
Well, and so if I think worst case scenario, I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where more than 20% of the listings are affected by one of these factors, right? Mm-hmm. So if every 2 out of 10 sales that go through, like, I just don't see this being a stupid market that people are going to be like, no, they got it for that. That's what I'm getting it for. Because the balance is not out of whack yet. Right? It hasn't gone into that buyer's market territory. And I mean, if things go okay, I mean, I read something today about how many millions of people have come across the Canadian border in the last couple of months. I mean, there's still people coming in, and I imagine it will be looser as time goes on, unless something crazy happens.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about unique properties and stuff like that too, this is where it's a little bit more important, because there's only so many buyers, certain price ranges in certain areas, certain types of properties, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So if your neighbor lost their job and your neighbor's forced to sell their home, and your neighbor's not being offered any more government assistance, and your neighbor puts their house up for sale at the same time that you do, and they're willing to take less, who do you think the buyer's going to choose to deal with? Right? The buyer goes and looks at both properties, and one's priced lower, or one of them, the agent saying, hey, we're motivated to sell, bring any offer, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You as a buyer are going to choose a property that you can get the better price on.
Right. But then the rest of the people will ignore that, right?
Well, what I'm saying is, if it's a unique property and there's only so many of them available,
sure,
right, then your price is going to be based off the last sale, because there are no other sales, right? So definitely, I understand when you're talking about townhouses and all these cookie cutter type of houses. Yeah, you need a lot more than just one sale. Yeah, you need a lot more than one sale. But there are markets where that will affect. So that's something that people have to be cautious about.
I think somewhere in what I'm saying is a point that, like, will it, even if there is this big, cliff looming, like, is it really going to have that big an effect? But I guess it's like public sentiment gets crazy and everybody just starts sitting on their hands because of these idiots that write all these articles and create all these stats.
So what do you think about the supply then this year for COVID? We know the demand must be affected. It's got to be less people who can be affected.
Well, there's definitely less. Okay, so I mean,
condo market first. Let's do that. Take the easy route for that one.
Condo market. I mean, I guess it depends where you are. If you're in a 905 condo market, it's going up with inventory. Although, I mean, I don't see really very many launches at all right now. Downtown, nothing. Outskirts, like, stuff in Niagara Falls. There's not much to really speak about. But I would imagine that
resale. Let's talk resale.
Well, resale condo market, I mean, that's in your TRREB numbers. That's all included, right? So that for sure is going to take a little while to absorb all these Airbnbs and all that nonsense.
So downtown Toronto, we've talked about it a lot on the show.
Toronto's
inventory has gone up because of COVID.
Sure.
Easy to see. Everybody understands that.
And I think developers are smart enough to not flood that market with new inventory, and they can all, wait so that they can release it when, they feel like they can maximize their investment there, right? So I don't see much coming online. I see a lot more low-rise projects being launched all over the place. Again, there's not much of that, if any, in Toronto. But inventory will have to go up. And I think what's happening now is that buyers are, all the local people are starting to, there's less competition from international investors. So maybe they have a better chance. There's 3 or 4 offers instead of 8, 9, 10 now. And then that'll start to dwindle. Like, the amount of offers on projects will start to dwindle as more projects come on. But there's still like an adjustment that has to happen before we have a problem, right? Like that demand and supply has to. So like right now, supply is going to go up for sure. How long it's up and how long it takes to absorb, I don't know, because it seems like demand is still pretty strong. It's definitely weaning. But there's definitely going to be another gap later on where we need more inventory when things start to normalize again. Employment numbers keep getting better. Things start to open up. Immigration opens up. There'll be a huge gap again. And so, everybody seems to think that prices are not going to be affected anytime soon. It just might be the sales volume that gets affected. And then at some point, no land is trading. So, I mean, that means no new applications can come, which means, again, there's going to be like this huge hole for new product. So I don't know how long this lasts. It really is going to be dependent on whether there's a second wave of this virus and the fallout of this deferral cliff. I mean, retail is going to be... Retail and entertainment will all just kind of follow all that stuff. If they open up immigration, then all of a sudden, like it seems like people are willing to go to whatever is open. Like there are people that are willing to go, and whether it's within the guidelines, outside the guidelines, if the doors are open, people are going in.
We just got our hockey league confirmed for October.
What does that mean? You're at men's league?
You wear a mask into the arena. You wear a mask in the change room. Yeah. You respect everybody's social distancing until you get on the ice and you play the good old game.
So my daughter's team, they've had those protocols in place. We got a call or an email last week saying somebody in the rink was exposed to somebody that had COVID. So all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh, what does that mean? We talked about that, I think, you and I. And so anyways, it didn't really mean much.
Nope.
Those people are still on quarantine, even though they tested negative for COVID. But so they started a training camp this week with even stricter protocols. And my daughter, because it's like training camp and she's a goalie and she's been sitting around for a few months, she pushed herself really hard and she threw up, which is actually very normal for her at the beginning of training camps. But they sent her home, and now they're like, they don't want her to come back because they don't know. She's had a headache for a couple of days. She threw up. Her tummy was upset after she threw up, and they're like, you need to stay away for a bit.
That's like the coach's proud moment from 2019, right? Like,
well, and then
you pushed yourself. Like, good for you. You really, you're stepping up a level.
Listen, last year I would have been at the rink. I would have
send you home. We're gonna send you home, kid.
Oh yeah, no. Last time it happened, I was at the rink. I brought my daughter a garbage can over to the bench. She threw up. She went back on the ice.
Exactly.
Now it's like 14-day quarantine just in case, or go get that thing shoved halfway up your brain and see if you have it.
Yeah. So again, what we're looking at here is we're looking at all the variables that can happen in the Toronto Real Estate Board and the market here in the city. And sure, I mean, a second wave is going to have a huge impact. But will people's reactions be the same if those numbers start to go up? I don't think they will be.
No, I think people.
Right? I don't want to get into the science and all that kind of health stuff, with you on the show. But I really don't think people are going to react the same way. We all had this heightened level of fear when we started seeing things in Italy and China, and it was just like, oh my gosh, that's going to happen here, and it's going to be like Armageddon.
No, we've been desensitized to this now. So
exactly.
if a second wave comes, it'll be like, okay, like let's
bring out the hand sanitizer again.
Well, or whatever protocols you're sticking to. But yeah, people will just kind of shrug it off. It seems like the real estate market is shrugging it off, and I think everybody's just waiting for them to open up the border so we can sell some real estate again.
Yeah, big time. So there's lots of changes. What else do we got today? Do you have any articles?
I thought today was just going to be a specialty show, so I didn't pull any up, but I do have plenty.
Well, that's okay. We'll save the articles for the next episode because there's a few good ones that I was looking into.
There's definitely a few interesting things going on, that's for sure. But I mean, I think we touched on all of the important stuff going on. I mean, that's all the stuff that's going on. There's a couple of funny things like, did you see that garage that somebody had outfitted as an apartment downtown? And it's for sale for like $1.something million. They literally
out of laneway house.
Yeah, but it's the garage. But it's like just a rectangular garage that they have like cleaned up, put a kitchen in, a bathroom. It's pretty cool. And
they're only selling the garage?
Yeah, and it's
or the house with the garage.
No, just the garage. The garage is the house. But the garage is like, it's bigger than a condo. and you're on the ground floor,
Yeah,
there's
we
some
sold one of those a couple years ago.
there's some perks. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, more landlord tenant fighting over unpaid rent going on. I see more lists of, what businesses have gone out of business this week.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all kind of business as usual now.
2020. That's what it's all
2020,
about.
it's going to be a very different business as usual. Yeah, garage home listed for $1 million. This is just fantastic. And then I don't know, like the banks all seem to be, not in agreement with CMHC still.
Hmm.
CMHC seems to think that
Well,
all hell's going to break loose. And
sure. But let's talk about what the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions has decided now
yeah,
with the mortgage deferrals.
yeah.
So if you applied for the 6 months mortgage deferral prior to August 30th, you were able to still get it. You could still, as of a week ago, get your 6 month mortgage deferral in
If
place.
you applied for it but didn't take it,
Exactly. So if you didn't do anything but apply for it before August 30th, so on August 29th, you said, okay, you know what? Now I'm no longer able to handle my mortgage. I'd like a 6 month deferral. They're allowing it.
I wonder how many
After
people are
August
in that
30th,
camp. How many people would have
after
done that?
well, maybe they held out as long as they could. So, anyways, after August 30th to September 30th, if you apply, you'll get a 3 month max deferral. And after September 30th, there will be no longer any option for the banks to provide a deferral that will be basically backed by the government, right?
So they extended the deferrals? Is that what you just said 3 more months?
No, so there's a 3 month deferral. That's only if you haven't applied at all.
So you can apply okay. So if you applied before, you can still get
You
the
got six
six
months
month
max.
deferral.
You got 6 months max, and if you started your 6 months in March, then it's going to bring you to September. October is now when your payments are going to be starting to be due.
But if you apply now,
And
you
never
can get
applied,
3 months still.
and now you apply up until September 30th. You got 3 months.
So this thing's never gonna end.
Well, you'd assume that those people would be in better shape than the people who might applied right away,
I think
right?
if
I
you
mean, that's the
get
assumption
that,
that everyone's making is the people who are struggling pre-COVID are the ones that we're concerned about because COVID's only made it worse. People who are doing okay, they're starting to go. They're starting to use credit. They're starting to exercise some of their options, blow through savings, all that kind of stuff too. They're going to be able to keep their head above water a little bit longer.
I don't understand what would be going on through somebody's head that doesn't have a job, doesn't have job prospects, and hasn't put their house on the market, knowing that, like, I mean, is it rocket
It's a
science that
funny
like listings are going to go up and there's going to be more competition?
it's a funny thing. The people I've dealt with, unfortunately, and they're really tough cases, the ones that I've had to deal with, where people are no longer able to maintain their property and they've got multiple mortgages and stuff like that too. There's usually um, a string of hope that they hang on to that everything's going to turn around. The
Sure.
market's going to get better. That job prospect's going to get better. They're going to have a windfall and it's, inheritances, things like that.
Hmm.
They've got this idea that things are going to improve drastically, and it's never like a very like you know objective type of point of view on their own finances. They're very very emotional, very um, I don't want to use this word, but they can be a little bit delusional as far as
Delusional.
what the reality is in their situation.
You
So
gotta be delusional to not have listed your house in that situation. If you get that new, they should make it that if you apply for that new 3 month deferral now, that you have to list your house. We'll give you that 3 months of non-payment, but you gotta sell the damn thing.
no, that's the last thing that they want to happen. No, the mortgage deferral is there to help people to be able to weather the storm. We don't want people to have to sell their homes. Like you're talking about some people who've been in their homes for a long time and they've got memories there and they've had experiences there, and there are people who just need a little bit of a break to be able to get through this, and they're going to be able to
But
stay where they want to stay. I mean,
the
people don't like to move.
no, but
Nobody wants to move.
the Canadian economy is so dependent on the real estate market continuously improving that, like, right now, I think if anything, they're stunting its growth by continually giving people money or deferments on their payments, which is the same as giving you money, basically.
No,
Like,
both measures are to
They're to soften the blow for the consumer. I get it, but they're destroying the ability of the market to actually be a market and to balance itself out. I mean, that's what it actually would do if you let it. Like, we'd be finished this whole mess probably.
Yeah, we wouldn't come out the other side of that one. So no, the government's doing what they can to keep people from putting their houses on the market and to keep buyers entering the market, so that keep on getting them to enter the market, so that we can have growth in the real estate sector, because that's where our economy's been based off of for a long time, and where we'll continue to be able to thrive. And that's Canadian, right? Like, we talk so much about Toronto, but there's other parts of Canada right now not doing
Sure.
the same things as
No,
us, right? Where there's people who just don't have enough equity in their home to even sell. Like, what do you say to them? Everyone should
sorry.
just claim bankruptcy?
Well, I mean, listen.
Or should you say, hey, why don't we give you an opportunity to keep on making those payments? Why don't we give you an opportunity to stay in your home, to refinance, to look at better options, to have a lower interest rate on what you're paying? And then maybe things do get better. And maybe one day you will be able to sell and pull your equity out and not claim bankruptcy and have 7 years of, issues on your credit bureau, right? So I think they're doing everything they can, not to stimulate the Toronto real estate market through the roof, but to protect the rest of Canada. Right. And that's been the issue with Toronto for forever, is anything that happens in Toronto to like when they introduced the stress test to calm down the Toronto real estate market, it hurt everybody else.
Right.
And now they're trying to boost everybody else up, and it's putting fuel on the fire in Toronto. It's just one of those situations that, you can't really manage it well. Like, how do you impose financial policy in from a federal level, but say it doesn't apply to one or two different cities or one or two different regions or parts of one or two different provinces? You can't do it.
Sure. No, well, I mean, you
Can't do it.
Toronto, yeah, but it's
You'll
so
get
out.
financing from somewhere else.
It's
If you tell me I can't do it here, I'll go get it from somewhere else.
right. It's just so
Yeah.
far out of balance. Like, you're comparing a 7 million person city to, 600,000 person cities.
Exactly. And that's what the government's always doing, is they're trying to balance
But
out
how do you invest in anything when there's so many unknowns right now? How does anybody invest in the future of Canada or Toronto?
You talking about consumers
No, well, I mean,
or the
consumers
government?
at some point, they won't have options to purchase other than resale, because there'll be
Hmm.
nothing to buy, right? Like, there's already basically nothing to buy, which fuels demand when things launch. But if land is not transacting because people are nervous, there will be nothing to buy. Like, we were already in full blown crisis on multiple levels going into this thing. We can't possibly all of a sudden be out of that crisis. Like, we'd have to be
I agree. I agree.
right. Like, we'd
Yeah.
have to have no supply oversupply for so long. And even now with a pandemic, we're not in oversupply.
Hmm. I get it. I know what you're saying. And on the land side, I agree with you. We need more housing. We need more supply. There's going to be a ton more people coming here. The borders will open up.
We
We
just
are going
need
to have
someone
more.
to buy my property. That's really all I care about.
We are going to have more job growth, but again, it just depends on when people are exiting the market. So, if you're looking at selling a property and you're looking at getting out in the next 2 years, and then we're going through these changes, then you might be looking at selling sooner, because of the way that the market's changing. You could end up selling for a lot less if more people start flooding the market with supply before we're able to keep up with all those areas of demand, like we've talked about post COVID. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But I agree. If you're looking at long term, you don't need to go anywhere. You're trying to buy real estate, hold on to real estate, inherit real estate, whatever it is. Then yes, long term, we will always have an issue with supply, and that's never going to change in a city like Toronto. It's the fastest growing city in all of North America. Okay, and there's like, I don't know what the total population is, if it's 8 billion now or not, but there's a lot of people on this planet. Okay, and not everybody's lining up to come to Toronto, right? But more and more people are each day.
Enough.
More and more people are having the Canadian dream. So
Sure.
like, that's existed forever, but it was in a very, very small part of the world's population. Most people are actually very happy in the city and country that they live. But as the rest of the world seems to be decaying and there's all these other issues going on, there's a lot more people who are getting the idea of where can I go that's stable. And Toronto just has all those factors in it.
Yeah.
You got language, you got cultural, you got stability, you got, with our housing, like you just have so many amazing things that people can be comfortable with making that change, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I wouldn't go to another country that didn't speak good English and that there wasn't going to be a lot of people that were of like mind to me, because I would feel like like that's going to be a very foreign place and I'm not going to fit in, and I'm going to have all these insecurities about how I look and what I say and what I do and all these kind of things too. Well, that's the same with everybody else. But in Toronto, you don't have to worry about that because there's people that are from your culture, demographic background, or whatever that
Yeah.
have set up a community here already for decades, and you're going to be able to jump right in there and then enjoy all the benefits of the city that we have. It's a remarkable place.
It's a
So
good
long-term Toronto numero uno.
to all of our Mexican clients
Mexican and Spanish
and
speaking
Spanish-speaking clientele.
subscribers.
Yes. We are on fire. We got another sub.
Yeah,
Speaking of
perfect.
which, if you enjoy our content and you would like to get future content from us, please subscribe and hit the bell.
Yes, I'm sure they know how to subscribe on YouTube.
Well, you wouldn't be able
You
to
wouldn't
tell
guess it
from
by
the
the number of
statistics.
subscribers we
Yes.
actually had.
These are real statistics, not lies.
Absolutely.
Well, Mr.
Well,
TK,
let's call it at that, Darryl. I
yes.
really appreciate it. Long weekend.
Enjoy yourself at the cottage.
Enjoy some time away, and things will be back to quote unquote normal next week with your bedtime and me dropping off my son in the morning to school, which is great.
Excellent. Well, you enjoy yourself. I will talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Darryl.
See ya.